All right, welcome to the channel. Today we're doing Logic mix training, and I have over here, which you can't see, but it's Emily. She's in Logic mix training, and this is really for anybody at our church, any church, but this is specifically for our live stream, so you can actually learn to do the mix on the live stream. So basically it's in Logic X, and I'm going to go ahead and just start out from the beginning. I guess if you just open up Logic, let's assume that you already have that open and the template is open. And there's a few things that have to happen here. This will all be set up, but I'm going to go over it. If you use the X key, it's a hotkey, which basically means you can switch between your mix view and your recording view. Okay, so this is your recording view, and that's the first thing that I use. Okay, this is going to be very specifically a video about stuff that I use. And I'm going to go ahead and shut my camera off here for a bit so you can see the whole screen. So you basically have, if you use X, you can see your mix screen, and if you hit X again while you're clicked on this area, then it'll go out like that. So this is actually recording of our service. So if I hit play, which I would use the space bar to hit play, or I can go right up here and hit play. Okay, so you can, I clicked around and recorded. Each one of these things is like a piece of the service I recorded. So if you click in this isn't really relevant to you mixing, but I'm just going to give you an overview of Logic. But if you click in here, you can see your little playhead starts there. You can click, I think, in this little line right here. And so you can start here. Okay, so that's that. And then if you click X, this is what you're going to basically be you're going to be seeing in Logic when you go to mix. Now, underneath here, you're going to notice you have your bass down here, your bass, your snare, overhead, Jess, the pastor, the click track, which we're really not using, so I'm going to turn that down. Use your mouse just to turn up and down. When we first start, you're going to want to record enable all the tracks. You notice how now you can actually see, for this video, I'm going to leave these unchecked. But basically, when you're at church and you're doing this, one important thing is the I has to be checked on all of these tracks, so that they will be, and I think that's input monitoring, because what we're doing is the mixing board is sending us each a signal to each one of these tracks, and if we don't click, let's see if I can, I'm actually going to turn this off here, no input. If we don't click input monitoring on each one of these, it won't pass through the sound. So the sound is going out of your headphones on the computer, and it's going over to the live stream. One key thing is, once it's set up and once you have it set up, don't turn the computer sound up or down, okay? Don't turn it off, okay? If you do that, then you're changing the overall output volume to the live stream. So once the live stream volume is set and all the meters and faders are right, that's it. Leave that. This little tutorial is going to be mostly about just how to move the faders and how to do the basic stuff to do a good mix. So don't change the volume on your computer. Also, we will make sure that our computer is set to do not disturb. Okay, so all that stuff should be done in the beginning. So now let's get to the mix. Let's assume that the band is up on stage and they're playing, and this is great because we have this from last week, have some tracks. Okay, you won't be recording during the service. If you're recording on this computer that we currently have, it crashes after about a minute of recording. So you're not going to actually be recording the whole service.
That would not be good.
Okay, and she speaks.
I am really here, everybody. I've just been letting him talk because I didn't have any questions yet.
Okay, so yeah, we are not going to be recording. Now, I recorded for a little bit because I wanted to have some program material to mess with at home. And we will, as our system gets a little better, have a little bit more to record with. But to record, if they're playing, all you would do is hit the record button, and it would say nothing selected, but it would just start recording is what would happen. So it's kind of doing that now. And you would see it writing. You would see it writing this. So I'm just going to hit, I don't know why it's doing this. Just hit stop. Okay. It's just bugging out because there's nothing record enabled. Okay, so go back to this mix, which is the view that you're going to be in most of the time for the live mix. It's really basically just set up. I'm going to go through how you would change the volume. So let's just go back to the beginning, click play, and this is like the band's on stage. Now Robbie's vocals are here. You can turn that down. You can solo out. You're not going to do this, but you can see that's the electric guitar. Let's say you accidentally hit the S button. That is called a solo. It will just let you hear just that.
So don't mess with the little letters at the bottom.
Yeah, don't mess with the little solo button. Okay.
What's the M for?
M is for mute. So if you wanted to get rid of the electric guitar, you hit the M, and
Good morning,
and it's gone.
and welcome. It is so good to see your faces.
So if you hit M,
hopefully you missed me a little
see, it
bit.
muted his mic out.
Last week we had a blast as our family went on
Your room mic is still picking him up, I notice.
Oh yeah, the
vacation,
room mic is
but I'm
on
so
there.
glad you guys are here this
Oh, that's good. This is the room mic. So you're gonna just basically set your mix up the way you like it, and it's gonna have to sound good. So how I do that is I just start with the bass and the snare and the overhead. I set the drums and bass, and really sometimes during the pre-service, like the practice, you never do this during the live recording, but during the practice, what I would do is I would solo the drums and bass, and I would just go like this. I'll just listen to it. And I'll just kind of put it where I want it. This is the snare, you can hear it. That's kind of loud. So you just kind of mix this around till you think it's right.
So you can solo 3 people at once?
Yeah, you can solo the bass, snare, overhead, and bass. So I'm
and have
soloing
everybody
those.
else muted.
And then I could solo out the electric and kind of mix that in.
That's super verby.
Yeah. He's got a very verby tone. That was all his verb. So then we have a room mic over here. I'll get to that. We'll get all the way down to that. So you can kind of add in the bass, snare, overhead, the bass, the electric, and then the acoustic guitars. Now when you get it where you want it, then you would go into Robbie's. I'm just adding this by clicking solo, so I'm adding places, really. This is just... So in this scenario, I'm soloing each person as I go, and as I go, it's adding them to the sound. At the end, I'm going to unsolo everybody, and it's going to be the mix. That's one way you could do it. The other way you could do it, I hold down the Option key, and it unsoloed everybody at once. So that's kind of an important option. Okay. Not that you need to know that, but we might have a little key. So if you hit Option S, I'll have a little key for you guys so you'll know. So the other way you could do this is you could start with everybody down, like this.
Right, yes.
And then you could go to that's probably a safer way to do it, and go like, oh, I'm going to listen to just the drums first. You want to get them about the middle of the thing. You want to have this little yellow part over here, this master fader stereo out needs to not be in the red. You never want to see like a lot of peaking red, okay?
But a little bit of yellow.
A little bit of yellow. You want to be loud. You got to be a little bit in the yellow. So let's go back to this section here. So I add the bass drum to this, or bass guitar, till it sounds really good. Your mix should sound really good with just drums, bass, and vocals. It should sound really good.
One of your R's is red. Why is that?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to record enable one of these. I don't know if I think it always does that. I'm not sure why it's doing that.
Okay, so just ignore that.
Just ignore that for now. Because during the setup, when you get there, it'll all be set up right. So you get Rob's vocals in there, then you add in some guitars. So let's add it. Now I have all that and I have some reverb on this overall, which I'll talk about, but then you add the room mic in. So this is what the room mic sounds like. I've noticed you just want to put this a little bit. You don't want it to be overpowering. You just want to be in there. You want it to be underneath the mix, but like in the mix. Okay, so the mix is getting better and better, and you're just kind of, all of this is, I'm doing all of this with not messing with the compression, the EQ, or the effects. All that's kind of set in our template. As we go, we're building the template. So if you're just kind of new and you're just like, trying to mix, you're just going to try to mix the basic stuff. Use a little bit. Now I'll show you guys how the reverb's set up in here. So that's just your basic mix. So like if it's like this week, when it's your first week, everything's going to be kind of set up for you. The reverb's there, the room mic's on. You just kind of have to move around the master faders a little bit during rehearsal until you think it sounds pretty good. And then, if somebody's leading, like let's say Robbie's leading that song, you want to make sure his vocal's on top. This is an example of what not to do if Robbie's leading. Yeah, that's an example.
No, we don't need to hear the harmony on top.
Yeah, so that's April singing harmony, Robbie is buried, and this is a bad mix right here. So you have to really pay attention.
I like listening to April, even when she's singing the harmony.
Yeah, but you gotta mix in Robbie like this. So Robbie's going to be on top of that mix, and then she's going to be just kind of creeping up underneath him. If you get her too loud, then she competes with him. So this is mixing the background vocal. So you have to know in rehearsal, you have to know who's leading. Yes. And you have to just move the faders. These faders, you don't have to go a lot. You notice I'm just going like this, like just a little bit here and there. Once they get set, you're just going to be like, oh, Robbie's leading, she's leading. It's just little movements up and down of these faders.
So, to recap, we start with all the faders down.
Yeah, that would be better
Everybody's on 0.
That'd be better than soloing, because soloing gets kind of confusing. I would start out with just everybody at 0, and start out with your bass and drums. Drums and bass.
That's the next thing, is to put the bass and the drums and get them sounding good together.
Yep, that's your foundation.
Then add the vocals, and then our mid-range instruments, our guitar, our electric, possibly keyboard. Where is our keyboard on here?
I don't think he's there this week. So,
okay.
Yeah, you kind of put him in there. Acoustic.
Okay, but they're the last ones. The middle ones are the last ones.
Yeah.
To put in the mix.
You're going to put in the bass snare, overhead, and the bass drum, and the bass guitar. Then you're going to probably add in the acoustic and the electric a little bit, get a decent mix, and then you want to put your vocals right on top of that. And the vocals kind of ride over top of the band, but not too far over. And then you kind of, once you get the band set, the good thing, once you get your band set, I don't change it much. Like the drums don't get changed at all during the service. So once you're feeling confident about the drums and the bass, they're pretty much going to stay there. So maybe these should be a different color, and maybe Jess should be moved over. I think you can just move these over. Don't move these over, people, but I think that I can move these over, and so they're set up right. This is just set up very simplistic. But yeah, you could change these colors.
Simply.
It's very simply, set up. So you can change these colors. Keep these up at 0. The main reverb, we're going to talk about reverb, but I'm going to start another video, and I'm going to show you the compressor.
What do you mean keep these up at 0? What did you just throw in there that I don't know what you're talking about?
This is a stereo output. It should be around 0. And I think if you just double-click this and hit 0, it'll go to 0. Double-click this 0. You want these end faders, except this main verb is fine to leave there. But like your stereo and your master should just be at 0.
Okay, why is that? Or do I need to know that?
I think it's just the way that it runs, the way that it's run. Then you'll use the computer volume to kind of set at it sets at a certain level to where it mixes in with the live stream. So you'll have that. Those are like really master volumes. And so you're not going to mess around with your stereo output volume or your master volume. These are going to be at 0. 0 is called unity, and 0 is where everything should be. So it's at the perfect output level. If you turn this master volume way down and run your mix, then they have to turn it up over there to get enough signal. You introduce noise into the whole signal path. So 0 is where it should be, your master fader. Now, if you needed to move it down a little bit, that's fine. If you need to move it up a little bit, that's fine. But really, if it goes beyond much more of just this and this, like a couple 2 up or 2 down, then you're out. Something is wrong with your signal. Okay, so if you're a live stream guy, and this is not about the board, but if you're a live stream guy saying, hey, I need more signal, what you would want to do is come over here and lift everybody up, because they're still under 0, But if you're running your faders like this, like they're way up here, you know, all of them are way up here, and then your master's down here, that's bad. Or if you're running them all up there and somebody says, hey, I'm not getting enough volume, there's something wrong. Like, for example, maybe your computer output volume is down really low. So when you go into your settings, this gets a little more outside of the scope of our mix thing, but if you go into your sound settings, notice that your output on your computer is down here. You know, they're not getting enough signal. So we're talking about signal. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that your output signal of your computer is solid, and then you want to run your fader, your master fader, around 0. Okay, if you see something happening that's really weird, like a bunch of faders down, then probably you have problems in your signal chain or your gain structure, which means, for example, your bass guitar, maybe you got it cranked all the way up and you still can't hear it. It's a problem with the mixing board. The guy that's on the mixing board, the gain structure is off on his end. So all of this has to be set up on the mixing board before you're getting it. You should be getting a very clean, very output worthy signal, a good solid green light signal. If you're getting a little baby wimpy signal that's like, you know, really little, like that big on your fader, you're probably not getting enough input volume from your mixing board.
So tell me this. Can the front of house, the in-person live concert sound,
front of house we'll call it,
be completely different than the online mix that you're making?
Yes, this will be completely different. Nothing you do on Logic is going to be heard in the room. It is completely different.
But what he's doing or she is on
the front of house mixer,
that's not affecting what I'm doing on the computer.
They move their faders. Now, good question, because if they move their gain settings, their initial gain settings on the top of their board, it will change your input gain here. Okay, so at the very front of any rehearsal, the gain settings should be set. So that's the very first thing you do. You set the gains for like the guitar, the drums, the bass. You got to get a good clean gain setting on your main master board. Never change that once you start, because changing the main gain settings on your board affects the monitor sends, it affects the Logic send, it affects everything. So when you first run your sound check, that's part of my 5-minute sound check, is set the gains for every instrument, and then your in-ear monitors and your Logic mix are going to be solid. If you start changing, if your sound guy is somehow mixing with his gain knob, which some guys might do that. I'm talking over there like I'm talking to the camera. All right, so if your sound guy is mixing with the gain knob, then he's going to be destroying everything you're doing. So that cannot happen. He can't just be up there, oh, I need more bass, I'm going to crank the gain up. Now I'm going to crank it down. So most people don't do that, but some guys do. Some people I've met have just thought that the gain structure was another version of their mix. But remember, the gain structure, the signal you're getting on this mixer is coming off the pre-fader. I believe it's the pre-fader, pre-EQ, pre-verb. It's coming right off the gain structure. So he sets the gain, and it gives you a clean signal. Okay, so it's a little more technical, but you're basically, anything he changes, faders, he mutes stuff, all that, none of that's going to affect what you get. You're going to get your signal, and it's going to be completely going to your live mix. That's a good question. All right, on the next video, I'm going to be talking about what I'm using here with channel EQ, compressor, and reverb. I'm going to talk about those things in the sense of what they are and a basic overview of them. If you're just new at this, you're probably not, at least in our setting, you're not going to be tweaking all those all the time. Those are going to be kind of like preset sort of settings that we're going to be set by somebody who really understands gain, compression, EQ, reverb. Those things need to be set by like your head sound tech. So if you're just mixer, like for this week, Emily's mixing, she's not going to be messing around with EQs and reverbs and all that. But let's go to the next video and I'll show you how you would mess with them.
Yay! Okay, let's do it.
I'm not sure I should tell you guys that.